take a day, half a day at the least to fill out. And so, pretty sure you've got the work cut out. What we're looking at is a CMA. What does CMA stand for? Anybody know?
Variable market analysis.
Variable market analysis. So what are the comps, right?
Right.
And so we got to think about what we're comparing it to. A lot of the same things appraisers use. But we're also not looking in the rearview mirror. We're looking out the windshield, saying, well, in today's market, if you put the home on the market today or in the next week, this is where I can see a valuation on your home. If you go a month or 6 months out, what does that mean? Wherever you look, the harder it is to see, isn't it? So we really want to be careful when we're hoping that we can project what their home value can be in today's market. Because remember, we don't pick the price, the homeowner agrees as to what the price. We don't want them to put that price on our floor. Meaning, you come in and say it's worth $300, but she comes in and says $310, and Judy shows up and says $315. Well, who are they going to listen to? Well, that's got a nicer smile. Probably not. The one that tells them, yeah, right. And so you want them to start making decisions based on, hey, this is the data, this is what I'm bringing, here's what the market's doing. Is your home nicer than this home? Or is it not quite as nice as this home? Where does it fall in this list of properties then in the neighborhood, which I know you, because you've been watching the market for the last 3 months, you've already looked at these on Zillow, you've already compared these mentally to, you may have even gone to their Keep a Little Open House a couple weeks ago, just to see what, you know, they were selling, because you were curious. So most people have a ballpark what it goes for. So on the first call, when I get on with a homeowner, I say, hey, just curious, I mean, like, what do you think your home is worth? I'm like, let's know. Love that answer. The answer is absolutely. And you probably have a clue, a ballpark as to what you think it's worth, right? And when I'm doing that, asking that question, I'm bringing up the tax assessed value. And I'm also bringing up the realist thing that we can get off the MLS, because it says that there's what do they call it, the ballpark market value. I'm going to bring that up quick while I'm chatting here, because I want to know where their head's at, right? We're trying to gauge how serious they are about selling. And so we want to bring up basically, in today's market, do they have a clue as to what their home value is? Let's go to my friend Daver here. He's looking at some lake homes. So this will be fun. I like looking at lake homes with Daver. And all right, this one's $690. It's been on the market for 8 days. This right here is the property tax ID number. When you click on that, it brings you into the realist tool. And on this, you find the homeowner information. You find what the county is using, the lot and block legal description, the previous tax valuations, how many acres, blah, blah, blah. But you get right down here, the AVM. So this is what basically a Zestimate would show up as. Our software is using some of the same algorithms that Zillow uses to project value. And I just want to see if they're in the right ballpark of that $685,000. Well, what's the one listed at that we just clicked on? $690, right? Now, when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at the range too, right? What that range could be. And I'm considering this right here. The closer this confidence score can be to 90, the better. And the lower this deviation number can be, hopefully in the single digits, the better. So think about it this way. If you have a neighborhood of 300 townhomes, and there's 2 different floor plans, there's an in unit and there's an interior unit, and they all have 3 beds, 2 baths, and 2-car garage, your deviation is going to be kind of simple on that, right? Because they're going to all sell for $250 to $275 based on whether or not they have stainless appliances or oak cabinetry versus maple or enamel, blah, 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 right? So that's a very obvious, like, you got a good subject data here. Out of 300 units in the last year, probably 21 of them are sold because it's a 7% number. Average is 7% of people move each year. You got 20 comps, half of those in the last 6 months. It's pretty obvious what the value is going to be. There's not going to be a $400,000 one for some random reason, right? Like they're all kind of the same thing. The more abstract you get in what you're comparing, i.e. out in the country, out in the sticks, right? You get varying conditions and sizes and construction types and age ranges is a big deal, right? And of course, acreage starts affecting that, right? We're not going to do a super abstract CMA today. We'll keep it kind of simple just to give you guys understanding where we're going with all this. But again, you're looking for this confidence to be closer to 90, the deviation to be in the single digits is the more accurate this projection should be, right? Now the reason I'm asking this with the homeowner when I first make that call is I want to know if they're in the right ballpark, number one, and I want to know if what's available online, i.e. the county, is as accurate, right? Now if they recently sold the home, we can go into the MLS and find that sale, but if they've been in that home for 20, 30 years, it's not going to be in our MLS. And so what if grandma and grandpa have been there for 30 years and they put an addition on the back that included a sun porch and a main level suite with a master bath, but the county doesn't have that information. And we show up going, hey, this is what we think it's worth. This happened to me the other day over in West St. Paul. Different agent showed up. They had a market analysis for a 1,400 square foot home. I took my laser around and figured out this home was actually $1,750. It had a 3rd bedroom, not a 2-bedroom. And my market analysis showed that the home was probably worth about $25,000 to $30,000 more than the other agent. Well, they didn't do their homework. They didn't ask that question that I asked them. And they showed up with incorrect data, making that homeowner less educated and less informed, and ultimately not making a great decision about where their home value might be. Now, yeah, they could put it on the market for that lower price, and they'll get multiple offers, and the market never undervalues a home, right? Buyers know what a value is. And if they bid that price up and they have the ability to back that money with their mouth is, right? Then that's going to drive the value up. I never believe in intentionally underpricing. This isn't California or New York, right? We're not going to like create a bidding war and get these people throwing out 6 figures more than the asking price. We just don't live in that kind of environment here in the Midwest. And it's kind of like, I use this analogy too with homeowners is, everybody watch The Price is Right? I mean, who hasn't, right? Do you remember the little yodeler that goes up the steps? Yodeler, and then he falls over the top? You want to get that yodeler as close to the top as you can with the price without falling over, right? Because that'll bring the buyers in, that'll get the showing activity, that'll get more interest and more clicks and more people doing showings, which will bring more and potentially better offers for your homeowner, which is what our job is, right? So, question?
Can you show me how you got here again?
Yes, I was on the property search, right?
Yeah.
MLS, you've been here? Just click on this link here, which is a property tax. You can also, if the home's never been listed before, go back to the home screen and then do this tax search right here, public record search or real list tax. Okay. Cool, cool. So, any questions so far besides that? All right. So, does anybody have a CMA that they're working on or a house that they're interested in figuring out the value of? Give me an address.
Okay.
This is my favorite part of the class.
So it's N6612.
Frickin' Wisconsin.
Yes, 1313th Street. And it's Prescott, but it's Clifton Township.
So, N, what was the number?
N6612.
The N doesn't normally show up, and then it's impossible for us to find this. N6612.
1313. You just go to 1313.
Yeah?
You're at 313. 1313.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. at that.
We're not getting any showing, so I wanted to update.
Of course, it's out in the country, and it's totally abstract and not a simple little Woodbury townhome. So, you're going to put me to work today,
I don't get anything easy.
right?
I'm just gonna do this after.
So here's one thing: 3-car garage and a 40 by 80 heated workshop. That heated workshop probably cost them $100,000.
No,
No?
no. To rebuild it, it's about 300.
300? Really?
It's all concrete floor.
Oh,
it's
all the way
heated,
through?
It's
Okay.
zone light commercial, so
Yeah.
he runs a business out of it.
Yeah. The challenge is it's probably worth about half about what he paid for it.
Okay.
And it depends on the buyer. See, that's the other thing,
Right.
right? Housing is such an abstract thing. It's what somebody I haven't met yet, that we don't really know like what they value, is willing to pay for something they haven't seen yet, right?
Right.
And so when I'm creating a marketing for a home, right, I'm trying to envision like, what does this buyer look like, right? So that might be a young professional couple that's just starting on their housing journey, right? Or that could be like, a couple that works downtown, but they use public transportation to commute. Like I'm kind of envisioning, what does this buyer really look like? And so when I see this listing, I go, okay, this is somebody who owns a business. This is somebody that drives big trucks, right? You probably got an 11-foot door on that garage, being that it's that size. They probably.
Actually restores boats.
Oh, really? I might need to meet this guy because I need some fiberglass work done on my Trojan. But
That's
if you don't mind sharing after the class, we can. I flip through the pictures. I know it's a bit dated, right? They probably, when it was built in. What was it built in? Yeah, they haven't done much substantially to update it. A lot of dead animals. That's going to turn off people. I used to do a lot of work of expired listings, homes that didn't sell the first time around, and that was my first thing, was like, take down your fish trophies and your dead animals. Not that I'm against it, I'm a hunter, whatever, but it's going to offend some people, it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. And chances are 90% or more of America do not have trophy animals hanging on their walls, and they don't envision themselves ever doing that, so they probably are going to be a little turned off. So it's just one side note. The other factor is you got to look at the acreage and go, well, what is 6 acres worth out there, right? And you can do some land searches, and in Prescott you're probably looking at $40,000 to $50,000 an acre if it's good quality property. That means it's wooded. If it's just a big open farm field, closer to $30,000 per acre, just general valuation, right? And you start throwing some of those numbers together and going, well, you got this, you got that, right? And we can talk more offline too about that moving forward. Also, it's a pretty good sized home, 3,500 square feet, yet it's only a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
So the reason he built it as a 3-bedroom is because it's rural, and you have to build your septic system according to the number of bedrooms you have, not the number of people you intend to have there. And to save on the septic system, most people out there will build homes with 3 bedrooms and 3 offices and a home gym and a whatever, right? So they're not classified bedrooms, but they're, right? That's why there's a lot of 6,000 square foot 2-bedroom ramblers in the country, right? Because they don't want to pay that extra money to have a huge septic system if it's just a couple or a couple and 1 kid living there. It doesn't make sense. But you have to, when you build it, have that waste treatment in order to, if it were going to be a full house. Does that make sense? So, being a bigger house too, but only 3 bedrooms, right? People looking for a 3,000 square foot house may be looking for 4 or 5 bedroom house. This is what I get into, I call computer shunning. Like electronically, it's not showing up in somebody's search because of the parameters they have set. Like, hey, we got 3 kids, we want to live in the country, we're looking for at least 5 acres, right? Some of these conversations you think yourself having with a buyer, And so they go, we're gonna need a 4-bedroom or more house, right? And so their agent goes and plugs 4 bedrooms in, and now it's not showing up on their automated search. When you listed the home, it didn't come into their email inbox that night because they had 4 or more. It doesn't exist to them, right?
Right.
And so that's a trick that you gotta find a way to get over, right? And again, that might be marketing it to agents who sell homes in that area, saying, hey, unfinished basement, lots of potential here, whatever. Maybe you got a buyer that's looking for whatever, XYZ. Perhaps this one would work for them too, right? So
I have a question on the basement. So he has the basement, sheetrock taped, electric's done, plumbing's done. But once, if they want to add bedrooms to it, or if they want to leave it wide open,
yeah,
we're kind of running into, well, the basement's not finished, but if you put carpet in and they're gonna tear it out as soon as they move in, if they don't like that carpet.
yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you that finishing a basement is at best worth half of the above ground dollars per square foot.
Do you put it in the agent remarks that it can happen and kind of try to pimp out the basement? Or
Yeah, potential to add additional square footage,
silver
that kind of thing. Yep.
From the square.
Might even share some pictures of it.
Yeah, I didn't put it on, but I was gonna ask you about that.
Yep. Might consider hiring a photographer too.
Okay.
So much of today's searching is visual and online. 54% of the buyers last year saw the home they bought online before they contacted their real estate agent and set up a showing. Another 30% or so received the listing electronically from their agent. So we're talking, 80% of people are clicking online before they ever hear about a house for sale. The rest is like their family member or friend at church told them or whatever. So it's such a visual experience. You might want to, if you do make some staging adjustments, get a professional out there. Get some aerial photography with acreage, right? Get a real good feel for what the land has to offer, right? You're selling an experience. You're selling a lifestyle. You got to paint the pictures to who that's going to fit. The more you paint yourself into a corner, because they're a hunter and they got the animals, as an example, right? The less likely they're going to, right, identify with that and get excited. So, side note. Let's do an easy one first, just for the sake of everybody in the class. And then, we can always talk more offline about this, or if we have time at the end. I don't know, let me go to, let's just look at a townhome. All right, so I have my auto search set up to have all of Woodbury's updates. And what do I want? This one's fun, 8855 Sequoia. It's my old hood, Colby Lake. Jackie from Wykert, she's a good agent, good pricing. 2 days on market, $375,000. So the first thing I look at is it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath with a 2-car garage, right? I look at the total finished square feet, 1,500, and then of course the year built in 1990. And those are some of the kind of the important numbers I jot down in my brain, and then I usually copy and paste this list number, and I go do a search for single family homes, and I want to go within a 3-mile radius. We'll start there, and bedrooms we'll go with 3 only to start, and then 1 to 2 bathrooms, knowing that a 1-bathroom home is going to actually hurt that listing. I'm surprised there's not one in the basement. Usually on a split level home there's 1 up and 1 down. So, and then of course a 2-car garage. A 3-car is going to add another $15,000 to $20,000 in value. Let's look at what's active, coming soon, pending, and of course closed within the last 180 days. And then it was a 1990 built. Let's go plus or minus 5. So 1985 to 1995, right? Because of that age of construction, it's going to bring about some style, right? Things built with oak cabinets, right? It's an Orrin Thompson, Colby Lake. And the total finish was 1,500. Let's give a range of 1,350 to 1,650, plus or minus 150. Got 4 listings. I sure hope our subject property is one of those. Ta-da! So, we got 2 homes that are closed, 1 that's pending, and of course here is our subject property, listed much higher than the others. Interesting. Brittany, that's going to be a comparable home for the most part. Copper Cliff, that was a distressed sale, and so there's it's a twin. That does not compare, so I would not include that one. Let's go back to our criteria.
Distress sale, where did it show distress sale?
I assumed it was a distress sale because of the price. I found out it was a twin home, which is, it's just not an apples to apples comparison. And now I see that it's sold by Mark Hermes, and it was a sold before print, in-house deal. Which makes me wonder, did Mark pick up another rental property, or that number is just way too low for that property. Yeah, we can play with that later. Let's get back to our criteria. Now, another challenge is, think about our seasonality in our market. We talked about this in the Geek Out Numbers class, right, Judy?
Yes.
We have to understand, why is it so hard to get comps for an appraisal in the spring? Well, because the closings that happened in the last 90 to 180 days were fall and winter sales. Do more homes or less homes sell in the fall and winter? Less. And so now we have this big ramp up in activity. Multiple offers, home selling over the asking, right? And we're looking back as to what happened late last fall, going into the new year, as our comps. It was a much different time. But that's what appraisers have to use. They can't go, well, last spring it was this, and homes appreciated 19% last year, blah, blah, blah. No. They got to use comps. So they're really struggling right now. So if you ever get a call from an appraiser who's asking questions, they're not trying to investigate you for whatever. They're looking to just justify a number, because that's their job for the bank. And if they can't justify the number, then you might not have a deal. And that's no fun. Nobody likes that. So I always try to help them as much as I can. Say, God bless you. Thank you for all the hard work you do. I know how difficult it is in today's market. Happy to answer any questions you have, because you also want them on your side if they ever come around as the appraiser on one of your deals, right? I'm not saying they're going to break the law or anything, but, you know.
So I have a question on that. So do you want your bank to make that number? Because I've seen banks make that number work. I'd rather, if it's not worth it, don't make it work.
You want your deal in the dirt?
I'd rather go
I mean, the seller had 13 other offers.
Yeah, but what about the buy? As a buyer agent, if it doesn't raise, I'd rather renegotiate it than have the bank make it work.
Will the seller renegotiate for you?
I don't know, but do you let your buyer overpay?
Overpay according to who? According to some appraiser's opinion? Because remember, they had 13 offers and they picked yours because of whatever reason, right? What's the market value? Well, we started with that. Who determines value? A willing buyer and a willing seller, an open and free market.
Right.
Except for the fact that they're probably borrowing money. Now that puts a little kink in things, right? So you got to think back, and it's not your deal. It's your buyer's deal. Let them make the decision. Give them the information. If they feel as though that's not the right thing to do, it is what it is, right? But most buyers want to get the deal closed, and they want to be able to move in. They don't want to, after paying up to $1,000 for various inspections, waiting 3 or 4 weeks just to get the appraiser out there, right? They're a month into this thing now, and they already gave their notice in their apartment, and now they get the news back that they're $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 shy of the appraisal. Meanwhile, they barely had the 5% plus the closing costs to put down just to get their deal accepted in the first place.
So then then they have to come up with that extra money.
If that's what the seller wants.
If they don't have it, it falls apart anyway.
That's correct. Yep. And that's why you want the appraiser on your side. Because the appraiser's just given a licensed opinion. And they have different levers they can pull on, right? But there's thresholds. You can only juice it so much. And I use that word respectfully, like I'm not asking you to break the law, but you know, hey, it's the spring market. We had 56 showings and 28 offers. And they were all above asking price. In fact, we had 5 offers that were in this ballpark, right? Like, a lot of times they'll call you on a pending property too, keep that in mind. I get a lot of those calls right now because of the seasonality conversation. Hey, I notice you have this townhome in this neighborhood pending. I know you can't tell me what you got for it, but how was showing activity? Oh, we had 17 showings and 4 offers, and you know, we wrapped it up in 3 days, right? So you can assume it sold for more than the asking at that point, right? And you know, there's things you can tell them without telling them things, right? So that they know, hey, okay, I'm working on a different one in this neighborhood, right? Let's work together here, right? Because they need the data to do their job. We need their appraisal to be accurate based on today's market conditions so that we can get our deal closed probably, right? Like, so that's the cool thing about real estate is we may have different colored signs and work for different teams, but at the end of the day, our job is to represent our consumer and try and make these things stick. That's what they want. Right? Any questions on that? I'm going to take my 3-mile radius off, and keep in mind, a 3-mile radius, it does not see boundaries between Woodbury and Cottage Grove or Oakdale or whatever, right? St. Paul versus Maplewood or some of those things. So you can also look at zip codes as another way to slice the data. And I'm just going to do a 55125 zip code. And look at that, we get the same forking properties. Something I don't like to do is bump it up to 4 bedrooms.
Can you put a plus sign on that 3+?
3 plus what?
On the bedrooms and the baths, instead of putting a number there, can you say 3+?
Could, but there's not too many 5-bedroom split level homes. That's the challenge. I think what's limiting us is some of the age range. So I'm going to go back 10 years and go 1980 to 2000. When was a 1990 build? And that brings in a lot more inventory, keeping that square footage closer to 1,500 though. And the reason I wanted to get to this point is because, like I said, the style of the home matters. So we are looking at single family homes. I didn't want that twin home in there. Holy smokes. Did Jackie Ide not measure this house? Is that the problem? Wait, that's different. Chamberlain.
You said you had, because I've never done this, so you said you had a laser or something to measure?
Yeah,
What,
it's in my car.
where would you get something like
Home Depot in their tools section.
that?
Bosch is the one that I have. And it's this cool little thing. I normally keep it in this pig, but it's part of my backpack.
It's
in my
called
car.
a laser.
It's a laser, and it's like the size of a remote control. This,
Okay.
and you put it up against the wall, and you push a button, and it shoots a laser over there, and it tells you that this room is 22 feet wide.
That's nice.
And usually, what I like to do is I find, and Rob Brown teaches a great class on how to measure homes, so we won't dig too far into that.
Right.
Yep, but you try and find a room where you can see from one side of the house to the other. Like maybe there's a dining room next to a living room with a big open archway, so that I can see the other side of the house and I can go beep, and it tells me that it's 24 feet, and then I add a foot because there's 8 inches of wall on each side of that too. Remember, square footage isn't just the inside of the room. Square footage includes from the exterior to the exterior. So if back in the day when we used tape measures, like I had a big 50-footer thing, like on the reel, like they use for the long jump, you know? And I'd hook that baby on one end of the house and I'd walk to the other end and get that exterior distance. Now I just kind of fudge the number a little bit because it's close enough, right? And that way you're doing the foundation size of the house, right? The footprint on the ground, how big is that footprint? So if it's a rectangle, it's nice and easy. If you have, different things jutting out or additions, it can become a pain in the butt. Then I start drawing things on a piece of paper and writing numbers down, and you start doing all your math on that. But, yeah, it's a cool little tool. It saves a lot of time because then you're not like pushing out the tape measure.
I haven't done that yet, so that's what I've been imagining. So
It makes you look a little more professional, and it helps sell you to the seller that you know what you're doing. And you don't have to get the expensive one. The cheap one's like $40-50. The expensive one will actually take 2 measurements and calculate the square footage. There's another one that'll do volume, so you can do they get really tricky. My friend who does kitchen remodeling has this thing that he sets on the counter, and then he goes in the other room and he turns it on, and it measures all of the cabinetry and everything to within like 1/8 of an inch. It's this laser thing, and it's like really super accurate, and it builds 3D space and models on his computer. So like he can like swap out the cabinets, and he can rearrange the room and come back to that homeowner and go, hey, here's 3 different options we thought of for you. If we stick the pantry over here, and then we put this over, but then of course that comes with the price and moving the plumbing, and you get the idea. I wanted to look at the tax record on this house. That's where we left off. Because for it to be 1,500 square feet, there has to be unfinished basement space. 1990, building total 21, above grade 1162, finished basement, yes, there's partial basement finished. That's what the problem is. So, she's pricing it like the whole basement is finished, in my humble opinion. Seems very strong. That's what the market AVIM, but there's quite the deviation. Remember those numbers? Again, that's just a kind of rule of thumb. It's a zestimate. That's about it. But I like to take a quick peek.
So you think she priced it too high?
Yeah, but the market will tell them.
How many days that is?
Well, in dollars per square footage, absolutely, right? Which is one way of looking at things. But the other part of it is you have to look at competition. Like, there might not be any homes for sale this weekend in Woodbury below 400, like none. So like if that's the one, then who knows? I guarantee you there's at least 20 or 30 families out there trying to buy a home this weekend in Woodbury, right? So we'll take a look at that towards the end of the class here. Holy smokes, we're already at 11:50 here. So that's just an example. I'm gonna do another quick one. Gosh, I could find something that's super simple. Savannah Oaks Bay. It's a 3-level. In that neighborhood, you get some 2 levels. Hazel. This is Bailey's Arbor neighborhood. But it's the 3 stories. Those 2 stories are so much easier to show. Falstaff. This one will be fun because this is a quad style where they have the tuck under 2-car garage, and there's usually 2 bedrooms, maybe 3 upstairs, and possibly 1 downstairs. These are super transparent. So this is a 212 with 800 above ground square foot. Really? There's no basement finished square foot? Who is this nincompoop? 6685 Falstaff. Never been sold before? Oh my gosh. All the crazies are coming out of the woodwork here this spring.
Are you looking for any house to, or any house to build, or is it?
Yeah, do you want one? Is there one you
Well,
got?
I was just gonna, I looked up just my zip code this morning, 55082.
Still letter?
55082 is still one.
Yeah, I was just trying to look for one that, you know, helps you understand the principles that I'm working off of
Okay.
as I pull this back together. Yeah, let's do this. Lodges at the Preserve. So there's plenty of these 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car. This is right over here by the Home Depot and stuff, that little neighborhood. Kingfisher and Wood Duck are the 2 streets in there. I lived on Kingfisher when I first moved to Woodbury in 2002. February of 2002, I bought that place. There's end units and interiors. They're kind of like the Savannah Oaks Bay that I showed earlier, but they were built about 5 years earlier, a little older, late 90s.
So you're comparing a townhouse to single family?
No. This was just a completely different CMA that I'm looking at right now. And I'm going to go only townhouse.
Okay.
But you can see they have detached, quad, and side-by-side. So this would qualify as a side-by-side townhome. The one that I showed you with the tuck under garage, that's a quad.
Yeah.
Detached is more executive. Typically, you know, more square footage. You get your own 4 walls, that kind of thing. Again, those aren't apples to apples type comparisons.
I thought I saw you click on something.
Yeah, no problem. So we'll go from 1992 to 2002 in Woodbury. And there's a very good reason why I'm choosing this one in particular, which I'll share with you in a minute. Judy probably will know it when I start talking about it, but within 3 miles of that property, and specifically in Woodbury.
You're not holding closed like that?
Sorry?
You're not holding closed in your search?
I didn't click on closed? Oh. Ta-da. There you go. 55 units. Let's see, let's go less than 1,700 square feet because those are 1,550 roughly. Doesn't change much. Alright, let's just use this for a second. So what I'm trying to do is massage these comps down to about 5 to 7 good ones, right? And sometimes you're only going to find 1 or 2, right? If you're out in the, you know, in the sticks or away from town. Sometimes, and you got to be a little more creative in a situation like that. But a couple of different things to consider. Quarry Ridge, that's located down by the library. Shrew is located over by Woodbury Lakes, right? So, trying to consider what we got here. One thing that is important in Woodbury is knowing that there is no Woodbury School District, South Washington County, 833, which encompasses most of Woodbury, Cottage Grove, Newport, St. Paul Park, and just a sliver of Hastings. But that does not include where we are currently standing, because Tamarack, for the most part, is the dividing line. Woodbury, or 833, goes south of that. Right now we're in 622, we're St. Paul Maplewood. Once you get over past Woodbury Lakes in that area, then you get into Stillwater, 834. So that can affect it as well. One example I mentioned in the last class was my experience in Savage. In Savage, you have the Burnsville School and you have the Prior Lake School District. There is no Savage School District. So comping out a home in the Prior Lake side is going to bring a higher value than one in the Burnsville side. because the test scores and the desire to be in that district is higher than the Burnsville School District, right? Not a dig on the community or anything like that. It's just people prefer that school district, and they get to do that. But that brings up the value in that part of Savage versus the other, right? My friend Kevin used to live over here by off of Tamarack, and his neighbor across here was Stillwater, and the neighbor over here was 622 Maplewood, and he was actually on the Woodbury side, 833. And he'd have like 9 buses and 12 garbage trucks go by his house on a Monday morning because it was just a busy thoroughfare. No wonder why the roads broke down in less than 30 years, right? They're being used like 3 times more than they probably should. But all that being said, let's go plug in and just understand that we're looking at an 833 here. What? They no longer want me to put the 0 in front of it, right? So now we're down to only 3 matches. 622, we have 18 matches, right? I think Troon was the Stillwater School District. So now out of these 18, we're looking at Spring Lane, similar construction style and age, but only the end units are, because they're all 2 stories on Spring Lane. There's no 3 stories. Remember, we were looking and comping this out as a 3-story, 2-bedroom. So then when that time comes, then I really start just clicking through and looking. So this is the same, because the other unit in the neighborhood has a big deck right here in the front. So this is a possible comp. This is a possible. And I start just checking the ones that appear to be. This is the other style unit because it has a big fireplace and a vaulted living room. That's the one that I lived in. Mine was 650J. That's what the previous one looks like, that big deck in front. This is big deck. Those sell for $5,000 to $15,000 more than the other ones. Certainly not an end unit. The Troon looks a lot like the Spring. This is an end unit as well, right? This one is a good comp. End unit. Alright, we have enough here. You get the idea. So these are arguably our comps for this particular unit. I'm going to go and refine and narrow, which will leave me with those 4 homes that I clicked on. And then I go back to actions and I click on the CMA button right here. And remember I grabbed that MLS number earlier from the subject property. I can pop that right there and use that to fill my subject. And then when we go to the finish button, it gives you the option to email or view. So I like the single line report, and sometimes I'll email the homeowner these comps that I pulled ahead of time, and they can tell me that I'm on the same page or not as far as what their property looks like, right? And they might say, oh, we got nicer carpet or whatever, we put in new appliances, whatever deal, you know, something they're always trying to get the higher number, obviously. But that gives us this, it gives us this basic market analysis. And so what we're doing is we're comparing 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 cars, similar square footage, right? Dollars per square foot, pretty obvious right here, anywhere from 136 to 162. And that's just the difference of 70 square feet. Because maybe that agent didn't know how to use a tape measure, 660J.
I have a question. So you're always going to see some that are just priced wrong.
Yeah.
Do you toss those out as a comp sometimes if it's just doesn't make sense?
Well, price wrong or sold for a much higher value or lesser?
Right. So when you're looking at
Is it active or is it a sold?
active,
So an active is a dreamer. Active homes don't give me concrete data
Okay.
that support today's current marketplace, right? They're hoping to sell just like my client is. And for the fact that they're not sold yet, right? Now, if you look at the agent remarks and see that they have 17 offers, highest and best by Sunday at 5, well, then maybe it's something to pay attention to, right? But if it's just out there active and it's 30, 40, 50 days on market and they haven't made a price adjustment, maybe they're a dreamer, right? There's a whole lot of those too. Keep in mind that this MLS, it's all created by people just like you and me. Like, there's no special people that do this. It's us and the 16,000 other people that have a license in the 7-county metro, right? And some of us are pretty good at it and some of us maybe aren't, right? I commend you for being here and taking a class because there's plenty of people working the drive-thru at Wendy's right now that are also going to price their sister-in-law's house tonight that have no clue. And maybe their sister-in-law just said, well, I want this number. If you can get me this number, then we'll sell. Got nothing else better going on, right? Got to get back to the breakfast shift tomorrow at 6 a.m. So let's just price it at that and see what happens. And that happens in today's market. That's why 9 out of 10 homes sell, not 10 out of 10. There are still canceled and expired listings today. So you gotta understand too, like, maybe it wasn't a rocket scientist that helped them price that home. Right? We call that buying the listing. When people agree to sell it for a price higher than what you think the market might bear. It's also technically unethical to do that if you know you're doing it. You have a hard time proving somebody did it, but
Say that again, buying a listing.
yeah, buying a listing. That's like where, say, the scenario earlier where the 3 of you ladies went on this listing appointment, and I go, well, what did they tell you? I said, well, I'll put it on the market for $350, right? Because you were at 300, she was at 310, she was at 315. I'll put it on the market for 350, right? And what I'm thinking is, at the same time, I'm going to have you have the struggle of having 20 or 30 showings this weekend and no offers, and then I'll call you in 7 days and tell you to come down to 320, where it might get an offer. And if that doesn't work in 2 weeks, we'll drop it back to 310, which is where y'all said it probably should be, and then get an offer, right? So I'm going to waste 2 weeks of their time, a lot of struggle and hassle so that I can earn commission. I will see. And you got to be careful. Sometimes you're going up against that kind of person too.
It sounds too complicated.
It's difficult.
To me, it's like.
And here's the dirty little secret. Is when you tell them the truth, you got to be sure of it. Because in 2 or 3 months, when their home isn't sold with this other person, they're going to be too proud to call you back and tell you that they were wrong. They'd rather not have that conversation. And there's been a handful of times where I thought that listing at that person's too high. And I said, hey, that's good for you. Good luck. I hope that works out. And it did so. We're human. We can be wrong, right? Nobody's perfect. Mistakes. Ask my mom. Ask my 12-year-old daughter. So that's just kind of in a nutshell, right? 214, that was a smoking deal, obviously, right? Because you got 240, 243, 240. Like, that's pretty obvious. That one sold for 235. That one was in November of 21. Yeah, interesting. Now, the very last thing I wanted to touch on before we call it quits for today is if I am considering putting a home on the market in Woodbury, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, that's all fine and dandy. We use those comps from the last 90 to 180 days to price it, but what's really going on right now at this price point in this area? So I will grab anything active or currently coming soon. And let's just go with the zip code. And let's see what's out there. All right, well, we're thinking about pricing around 240. Well, look at this. sold subject to inspection, sold subject to condo docs, inspection, condo docs. Should be available, condo docs, right? This is a twin public, more to come. Really? 11 days on market and that's your frickin' remarks? Remember what I told you about the drive-thru at Wendy's?
Yeah.
I have no idea who this dude is. Actually, I do. He's his own broker. Anyways, yeah, that's there's really nothing for sale, right? So you can be a little more aggressive in your pricing, right? You can't overdo it, but you could be a little more aggressive. And this is important that you do it not only when you list the home and you put that price on the listing agreement and maybe do a coming soon or whatever, but when you actually get ready to go active. And there's been times where I sit down and I call my clients. For instance, my friend Gabe, he lived over in Bloomington and he was buying a house in Prior Lake. I called up Gabe and said, hey bud, remember those 3 active homes we thought we were pricing against? Yeah? They all had multiple offers this weekend. And one of the agents told me they had as many as 12 offers. I think we can bump your price by about 10, 12 grand. Awesome, Matt, do it. Right? Because you just make a few calls, go a little bit out of your way to find out what's going on, right? Keep in mind, some agents will tell you all they want to tell you, right? Oh my God, 12 offers and they're all 10,000 over asking. You know, like, just let them talk. Ask open-ended questions. They'll tell you their shoe size, all sorts of personal information, right?
So did I not hear you right? You're not using Atlas when you're pulling your house?
No, because I'm looking at sold data
Yeah.
to help understand what the market did,
And you're just checking lists.
and I'm checking the competition because that's who we got to compete against. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'll click through and I'll go, all right, well, 235 to 255 might be our range. Let's start here. Let's start here at 260. Well, this is a one-level living, right? Those are going to get more dollars. Not an apples to apples. Again, twin home, split style. Again, not really apples to apples. Oh, here we go. Remember this style? We looked at a few of those, but they got an offer. $259 is their asking price. 4 days on market, multiple highest and best due for on April 3rd. Oh, okay, so there's some buyers in this neighborhood, right? That's good news. It's a Savannah Oaks though, even though it's the same style Savannah Oaks, remember, is in the 833 district, not the 622. Again, a one-level moonbeam. This is in the 622, Gironde. This is right back over the hill here. And but they're newer construction, a little different style. They got this like little family room on the main level, and then most everything is up here on this level. Walks out to a patio on the end typically. If it's an interior unit, that's incorrect though. Yeah, it is an interior unit. Okay. But you know, newer construction. This one was built in 2000, and they're 1,200 square feet. That seems small for a Gironde. And then we're in completely different homes at that point, right? So we looked through that range and we went, well, is this better or worse than the subject? And you're trying to feel that out. So, and that's strategically pricing, right? A little bit of strategy in there, thinking about market conditions. We're in the spring. Do they have time, right? Can they afford to be on the market for 2 weeks and then make that price improvement if we need to? Or in 2 or 3 weeks, will homes just be worth more? And will they end up getting offers anyways, right? They might have to see 1 or 2 sell first, and then they will. Based on the market absorption, which we talked about in the geek class. That's say there's 20 homes for sale and 5 are selling every week. Basically, you've got yourself somewhere in the neighborhood, or 5 a month. You have 4 months of inventory. 4 to 5 months is kind of a balanced market. Less than 4 months is a seller's market. I'd argue in Woodbury right now we have probably less than 1 month of inventory, meaning just about everything that hits the market is selling in that month, right? Your average days on market is like 12, and you know that probably 5 or 6 of those days are just because they're sitting active still, because the agent's too lazy to submit the PIN form to the front desk, or they have an inspection contingency where it's actually under contract, but it's accruing days on market because it's A, I for inspection, right?
Coming soon, that doesn't count as
No.
right?
CSNs. That's another thing though, good point. You know, you look at Falstaff here, right? We saw that one earlier. That's a CSN 235. It's a quad, little different style, older build. It was only 800 square feet though. So we got a 1200 square foot 3-level versus a split entry, right? It's gonna be a different kind of buyer. I mean, because somebody that's over 40, 50 years old is not buying a 3-level townhouse usually. Right? I mean, I lived in one in my 20s and I couldn't stand it. My washer and dryer were behind the garage. My bedroom was on the 3rd level. Laundry day was like leg day for me. Doing stairs. It's crazy. Never do that again. I've learned so much in 20 years. So much smart. So, any last questions before we shut this party down?
So there was a class before this, you said, that,
Yeah, it's on Zoom.
and it's on Zoom.
Geek Out.
What's it called?
Geek Out. The number